So good. Hey, come on. There we go. There we go. What's going on, everybody? What's going on? Salute la gente latino, tú sabes, la cubano. Salamones, presentado. Tú sabes, toda la gente la no grito, tú sabes. That's for one. Number two, I find it kind of funny. Yeah, maybe it's just a coincidence. I don't know. But earlier today, we were talking about Diddy and his reluctantly not getting a pardon. And I said, oh, okay, that's cool, whatever, you know, what can you do? Diddy's got a hearing coming up anyway. But that wasn't the focal point of my conversation necessarily. I knew some people were going to get mad. Some people would have the advantage of getting upset or whatever, because they wouldn't get the pardon. And then maybe about, I don't know, 2 hours ago, my time, I'm on the East Coast, Northeast. I see something flash by me, and it's almost a demand letter to Cuba about Venezuela and their prior involvement with Venezuela, which I would tell y'all for years they wanted a deal. The deal was basically, if I remember it right, and I think this is what they're talking about, don't quote me on it, but it was some type of protection that Cuba was offering to Venezuela. And in exchange, Venezuela was giving Cuba oil. Um, it never expired. Basically, it never expired up until the point they caught Maduro. When they caught Maduro, what happened was it put the United States in a fraction of power, which you might want to call the Gulf of America. The Gulf of America. Yeah. Where's my loyalty lie? Is that what you ask and get? It lies right here. But without there's got to be a little reverence and precedence in the conversation. So let's start here. You're gonna look like a bully, don't you know? Oh, you're gonna look like a bully on this one. See, one unique thing about Cuba, the small country that it is, and a little military force that it has, and make no mistake about it, hey, most Cubans are warriors. um, you know what type of warriors do? They'll do things to you that most other people won't. But with that being said, the military force itself is to be ranked with, I guess you could say, as far as training. A lot of the training came from the United States. The United States had an embassy there for the longest. I think it still stands there, but empty. If I'm not mistaken, it's still empty. I think Barack Obama tried to enter it and put together some negotiations, and it got utilized again or whatever. In Cuba, there's one side of town in Cuba. I said one side of town, one side of part of Havana, where all these things are. It's a whole different living style over there, everything, including for Cubans that are rich. And so this embassy that's now empty and it sits as an empty shell. And I think it's been probably, I think it was Barack Obama's second constituency. It's been empty since then. And Cuba's had some horrible things happen. Hurricanes, that's the biggest one. The food supply there stinks. You're not getting nothing fresh there. Now, if some of these things opened it up for Cubans to start getting fresh food, Cubans to get electricity, a nice electricity grid would be good. Hey, how about solar panels? We could get some of the Indians to donate because they manufacture them and we have deals with them. We can get the Indians to help with the solar panels. Let's get some electricity for them. See, if you want people to be quiet about poverty, what you got to do is you got to make sure they ain't in poverty. Extreme forms of poverty, yeah, just moderation, but you got to make sure they're not in poverty. So, for example, you go to the average Cuban dwelling, I'm pretty sure it ain't changed, and you'll go in there and there'll be 35 people hooked up to one line, a wire. And so Cuba always has blackouts because of this all the time. They need an electricity grid. The electricity grid really got washed out before then. Before you can really talk to them about that, the first thing they're going to bring up to the UN and other people is they're going to bring up we're in poverty. UN doesn't look very gracious on people that attack countries in poverty. They never have, never will. That's why they exist, really, to make sure they monitor the countries that are in poverty because they're the most prone to war. Poor people start war before people with money start war. Trust me on this one. Always have, always will. So, how far you gonna go with the statement? I don't know. I don't know. You want to know where my loyalty lies? It lies here to answer that question. But though still, and tú sabes, pero la gente, and I can't let that be without some type of consideration. Is that good? Consideration. And the consideration has to be what are we going to do for the people of Cuba? I would say the Cubans, especially Cuban Americans, make sure when you call back home, make sure when you have calls about this, because this conversation is going to come up, it'll probably start tomorrow. Make sure you discuss making a deal. There's no way you're going to beat them. I can tell you right now. The longer you wait it out, the worse they will make it. And being the condition of Cuba, and the storm was there, what, a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, it would be in your best interest not to. I'm pretty sure they'll offer a fair deal. It's going to be better than Venezuela would offer. I'm not a fascist. I'm not a communist. I definitely don't support socialism. That's the problem with Venezuela. They did. But I also know the needs of the people. I know the political system that led up to it, from the Cuban Missile Crisis on up to it. I understand why Fidel and Raul were able to take their banter as who they were. Hmm. Hmm. Put me in the pickle, didn't you? Anyway, make sure that you help them out to eat. Make sure that they got something to put. You know, the government has sanctioned restaurants. I think it still have them, and sanctioned grocery stores. It's a communist country. And so you have to go, you have to stand in line and queue for hours. It ain't like you just walk in the shop, right? Or Stop and Shop or Kroger's or Winn-Dixie, wherever you go. You can't just walk into them. You understand? You just stand in line. The only thing that's easy to get in Cuba is food and liquor from a restaurant, but not groceries. All groceries, it might take you all day, you know? And the restaurant, same thing. Depending on what restaurant you go to, you might be getting something fresh. You might be getting something a day or two old. Yeah, it happens. This is called the import and export business. Fun fact right here. Fun fact. When Napoleon was running from Peter Toussaint in Haiti, you know where he went to? He went to Cuba. And there's a home of his still sitting there with a portrait of him inside of it or whatever. It's a beautiful home. It's a beautiful home. But yeah, man. I think stall them out a little bit. How about that, Gab? Stall them out a little bit. Give them some time to think about it. Year two, you know. Give them some time, recuperate or whatever. And in the meantime, as we're having all these Eastern European countries, many of them close to Germany, oddly enough, aren't they? Fluff. Yeah, never mind that. Anyway, need to start helping some of the countries here on this hemisphere. They could use your help. West Indies could use your help. So make sure you do something about that too. You know, we can't be sitting in front of world stages and everything except for inclusive of America. It looks like it's in turmoil while you're. What I'm saying here is the way America looks right now, and this is why I said what I said earlier about Donald Trump, and he might want to keep scaring on that promise of $2,000. Everything now revelates around poverty. You know, it depends on the perspective and the lens that you're looking through. But when I see it, and I walk through New York City, and y'all know I walk through the city. I used to take y'all on that all the time. I had to stop doing that because there's no financial support for me here at this level with donations and everything. So I stopped it, but I'm still doing the same thing. And I breathe and I see what New Yorkers feel. And even I saw how they jumped, and Mondani said, yo, this riding on the train for or the buses for free would be a big deal to me. You know what I mean? Because it would save me thousands. You know, there's a thing that's going on in New York right now where a lot of clubs and bars are shutting down because people can't afford to go out. They literally can't afford to go out. You know what I mean? Well, if I go out 2 times this week, then I can't even have my latte that I get for $17 3 times a week. You know what I mean? So you got to make choices. But the economic stranglehold that people have right here in America and in this hemisphere is crazy. You know, it runs all the way up from Mexico to Canada. Same way. You look at Canada, same financial scores, and everything we have applicable to it to make it a lean emotion is that little time we went through with the pandemic. You know, and that's the only thing we can equate it to. It's changed people's psychological senses. It's changed people's way of thinking. It's changed. There's a lot of things that came from this. Sooner or later, we'll have a grand psychological study of the repercussions that came from it. You know, I would hope that's what needs to really be looked at. That's going to tell you your future population, where they're going to be at. You might unintentionally have a whole bunch of damaged people getting together, having children, populating the world. What do you think? Damaged people make damaged people, you know? I don't know. Well, just think about Cuba right now. I don't know. I'm kind of tight about it, but at the same time, I'm like, I get it. You know, it makes sense. You know, you did get yourself involved with them. But yeah, that's the sad truth. Cuba has been protecting Venezuela for years. Cuban, see, I don't even want to say it like that because you get a lot of turmoil for saying stuff like that. I'll say, would see if I use the word nationals, that'll make it look crazy because it was originally nationals and then it turned into military. You know, really, to be honest with you, you know, almost like mercenaries, if you really want to say. Um, I don't know, man. That's all I will say about that. I would hope in exchange for this mission, I'm thinking that's what you want. I would encourage, and I don't want to use that word so broadly, but I would encourage them to make the deal, make the deal, make the deal on this one. It will benefit you. They'll give you a lot more than Venezuela was giving you in exchange. Oil is one thing, but the United States has a lot more to offer you, and it could get you some of the people out of. People walk around to Cuba sometimes with no shoes on, no shirt on, because they only own three, so they'll want to get one of them too dirty or whatever. Now they're down to two. It's a hard world, you know. I think if I grew up in it, I wouldn't be able to. You adapt to it, but I wouldn't be able to accommodate the United States way of living. And I wouldn't understand it. So kind of good I grew up over here and I know what's going on over here than being over there, whatever. But still, I'm a rep there. You know what I mean? But my heart and my dedication and everything else is here. This is where I live. This is where I reside. You know what I mean? This is what I know. So, man, it's a hard choice right there, but that's what I would have to make. But it does not come with lack of not acknowledgement. And the acknowledgement is that Cuba needs help. They've been needing help. And the first day you can start with Trump is getting some construction people in there with some solar powered gears, you know, some solar powered gear. We can get it from our friends in India. They manufacture. You know, I put up solar panels as a job one time over in the field. They had a whole big field, ocean job, had a whole big field, and we would put the things together, whatever, whatever. Hell, send me down there, give me a crew. I'll help. Got my promise. I'll help. I love to do it. I love to help. So you got my promise there, Get. But um, yeah, solar panels, a better, definitely diet program where we can get some people going in and out of there with shiploads of food. And don't say it's not possible. We did it for Puerto Rico. We've done it for Jamaica. We've done it for the U.S. Virgin Islands. Don't say it's not possible. Let's get some ships in there. Get that open again. You have an embassy there. So it's not like it's a big problem, like it would be a stretch. Now we got to go set up. No, you got an embassy already standing. You got housing already standing. It's nothing. Cuba don't get in the way. Cuba government don't get in the way. We won't have no problem. You know that's the main thing. Do the deal with the oil. Everything comes to an end. Do the deal with the oil. And that's all I'll say. I'm gonna end this and I'm gonna come right back because there's something else I want to talk about real quick, and then I'm gonna get out of here. I know I said I was gonna do one, but it's something else I want to talk about. So I'll be right back. All right. So that's all I want to say. Salute a la gente la cubano, tú sabes, la negrito, la presidente, pero la America. And tú sabes, la toda. Do the deal. It'll be worth it in there, trust me. And Trump, get some solar panels in there. Get an electrical grid going for people. Maybe open up a couple doors to get some modern things in there, and they'll have to rely on family in Miami. Talk to you later.